Urgent, Vikings fan. Look at what just happened. Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest your team news. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Minnesota Vikings showing interest in speedy Baylor wide receiver. The 2025 NFL Draft is just over 1 month away. While the Minnesota Vikings do not have a lot of picks to work with this year, we can never rule out a few draft weekend fireworks from General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. There are some target positions that are absolutely in play for the Vikings. Next month, specifically on the interior of the offensive and defensive lines. Last week, the Star Tribune's Ben Gusling even suggested that the Vikings have made Oregon DT Derek Harmon a priority draft target. Minnesota Vikings interested in Baylor WR Monterey Baldwin. The MN Vikings also have needs in the secondary, and at wide receiver, where they'll look to the draft for help in those areas. And Gusling took to Twitter on Sunday to report on another draft target that fans should keep an eye out for: Baylor Bears wide receiver Monterey Baldwin. Monterey Baldwin spent 4 seasons at Baylor, where he totaled 99 receptions for 1,673 yards and 13 touchdowns. He also rushed or took passes behind the line of scrimmage 19 times for another 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Baldwin's best season came in 2023 as a junior, when he caught 38 passes for 623 yards and 4 TDs. Watching some of his highlight clips, as a Baylor Bear, you can see that the Minnesota Vikings seem to have a specific type of WR they are looking to add to Kevin O'Connell's offense. Much like the most recent free agent signed at the position earlier this week, Rondale Moore, Baldwin is a height challenge speedster who's generously listed as 59 and ran a 4.32.40 at the Big 12 Pro Day. Following his impressive performance, the Killeen TX native met with the Vikings representatives on site at Big 12 Pro Day. Monterey Baldwin would offer Kevin O'Connell's offense a type of shiftiness and elusiveness that they have not had on roster since this regime took over. Vikings have immediate and future need at wide receiver Jordan Addison, who just turned 23 years old last month and is entering his 3rd season as a pro, has proven very much worthy of the first-round pick Minnesota spent on him in 2022. Unfortunately, he's likely to miss 3 games this season due to a suspension that is expected following his DUI arrest last offseason. Looking into the future, there's almost no future where the MN Vikings try to extend Jordan Addison once his rookie contract comes due in the next few years. Not when they're paying Justin Jefferson $35 million per season. Thus, while WR may not seem like a top priority on the surface, it's become clear that is a priority position this offseason. Pausing this news, just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest Vikes news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks. Now let's get back to the news. We know what it would take for Aaron Rodgers to be a Viking. The Minnesota Vikings haven't completely shut the door on potentially signing Aaron Rodgers in 2025. Although the team appears ready to move forward with J.J. McCarthy as their starter, there is still speculation that the Vikings could sign the future Hall of Famer at some point this offseason. It's unlikely the Vikings will publicly dismiss the idea of signing Rodgers. Ben Gusling of the Star Tribune wrote this week, "The 4 QB saga of 2023 is a reminder why they'll never say never. No one could have foreseen the Vikings going through 4 quarterbacks in 2023. Kirk Cousins had never missed a start due to injury in his first 5 seasons with the Vikings. Once he and Nick Mullins were out, Minnesota hastily added Josh Dobbs, who came off the bench for injured rookie Jaren Hall against the Atlanta Falcons. When Dobbs' magic wore out, the Vikings then started Mullins. They then went back to Hall in Week 17, which was a significant mistake, before returning to Mullins again for the season finale. Keeping Rodgers in their back pocket in case of emergency can't hurt. The Vikings have seen that even the unthinkable can potentially come to fruition. The other emergency situation will arise if McCarthy is so bad in camp the Vikings believe even a 41-year-old Rodgers can be an upgrade at the end of his career. The one scenario that might still lead Rodgers to Minnesota is if he came on a team-friendly deal, with the understanding McCarthy would get to compete for the starting job," Gusling continued. The idea that a quarterback of Rodgers' pedigree would accept such an arrangement seems particularly far-fetched. Gusling is wise in being skeptical of this scenario. Rodgers has played at a high level for too long to accept a job where he'd be fighting for the starting spot. Even if he were to entertain such a deal, would Kevin O'Connell risk the potential distraction it could bring to McCarthy in the short and long term? The Vikings won't shut the door on Rodgers, as they have become a safe haven for quarterbacks since O'Connell arrived. But a lot would have to go wrong for the Vikings to seriously consider adding Rodgers to their roster in 2025. Vikings make move on freak athlete WR, who benched 400 pounds. The Minnesota Vikings have a ready-to-win roster and will approach the draft with the intent of taking swings on developmental prospects who could become contributors in the coming years. Wide receiver is a sneaky need for the team, with 2021 sixth-round pick Jalen Nailor's lack of consistency. The Vikings agreed to terms with former Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Rondale Moore, who at 5'8" squatted 600 pounds and was recognized as one of college football's biggest freak athletes by The Athletic's Bruce Feldman. But despite Moore's arrival, the Vikings still have their sights on another freak wide receiver in the upcoming NFL draft. Minnesota Star-Tribune beat reporter Ben Gusling reported on Sunday, March 23rd, that the Vikings met with Baylor wide receiver Monoray Baldwin at the Big 12 Pro Day. At 5'9", Baldwin's 4:32 40 time at the Pro Day was impressive, but that was a given. The Vikings met with Baylor WR Monoray Baldwin at the Big 12 Pro Day, source said. Baldwin ran a 4:32 40 and averaged 17 yards per reception over the past 3 years. Could be worth keeping in mind as a later-round deep threat. Ben Gusling, March 23, 2025. Coming in at number 42 on Feldman's freak list for the 2024 college football season, Baldwin is noted for his strength and explosiveness, previously benching 400 pounds, the weight of a refrigerator or a motorcycle. Has up to 168 pounds from 164 on his 59 frame. Baldwin, number 42 on last year's Freaks list, didn't bench 400 pounds like he did in 2023, but 365 is still more than double his body weight, Feldman wrote. His GPS speed is up to 23, 16 mph. In 2023, Baldwin had 4 touchdowns and led the Bears in receptions 38 and receiving yards 623. Monoray Baldwin hit the turbo coveted for his play strength and toughness. Baldwin projects as a deep threat, yards after catch maven, and a tough tackle in the NFL, but is still developing his route tree and hands. He is on several teams' radars, but is likely no more than a day 3 pick in the draft due to his size and inconsistencies in catching in traffic. However, the tangibles are there, and the Vikings have one of the league's top receivers coaches in Keenan McCardell. The Vikings have swung big in undrafted rookie free agency in the past years. If Baldwin goes undrafted, it wouldn't be a surprise to see the Vikings make a strong bid for him. And now, Vikings fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for Vikes. I'll be back any moment with more Vikings news. Skol, Vikings!